Dear friend, let me share with you a story from the frontier days, when truth wore many faces and love came disguised in worn calico. You might remember your grandmother speaking of such times, when women had few choices and men carried secrets heavier than gold. This tale begins in 1882, in a dusty Montana town where a native woman named Sarah Crowfeather made a bargain that would change everything she thought she knew about worth and wealth. Like many of us who've lived long enough to see past surfaces, Sarah understood that the poorest-looking man might carry the richest heart, and the simplest proposal might hide the most complex truth. So pour yourself some coffee, settle into your favorite chair, and let me tell you about the day Sarah said yes to a stranger, not knowing she was about to discover that sometimes deception is just another word for fear. The tin ring sat cold against Sarah's finger, already turning her skin green where Thomas Harland had pushed it on moments before. The courthouse smelled of tobacco spit and whiskey. Judge Morrison had been drinking since noon, his words slurring through the ceremony like water over stones. "You may kiss your bride." Morrison hiccuped, already reaching for his bottle. Thomas touched her elbow instead, just that. A brush of calloused fingers against the faded calico of her dress. "Wagons outside," he said. Sarah gathered her grandmother's beaded bag, the only thing of value she owned, and followed this stranger, who was now her husband, into the harsh August light. The few folks on Main Street turned away. A white man taking a native wife was one thing. Thomas Harlan taking any wife was another. She'd heard the whispers in Garrett's general store not an hour ago. Peculiar. Keeps to himself. Something not right about that man. Mrs. Garrett had warned her while measuring out flour. "You sure about this? Girl man lives 20 miles from nowhere. Nobody knows nothing about him except he pays in cash and don't talk much." Sarah had counted out her last coins, knowing she wouldn't have enough for next week. "I'm sure." But now, standing beside his wagon, she noticed things that made her neck prickle. The horse was a common bay, nothing special, but its hooves were freshly shod with quality iron. She could tell by the ring against the packed dirt. The wagon looked old, painted that ugly green farmers favored, but underneath the paint, where wood showed through, the grain was tight and fine. "Expensive wood?" "Your belongings?" Thomas asked, eyeing her single carpet bag. "That's all." Something flickered across his face. Not pity. She'd have walked away from pity. Something else. Recognition, maybe. Like he understood traveled light. He helped her up, his hands careful not to linger. She noticed his shirt then, as his arms stretched, rough homespun on the outside. Yes, but where it pulled tight, she glimpsed something underneath. Finer weave, white as fresh snow. Why would a man wear a good shirt hidden under a poor one? The wagon bed held supplies, salt pork and burlap, coffee, flour, dried beans, normal provisions. But they were arranged too carefully, weight distributed with precision. The tarp covering them was hemp, but reinforced with stitching she'd only seen on military equipment. Thomas climbed up beside her, took the reins. His movements were economical, practiced. But when he adjusted his hat, his fingers moved with a delicacy that didn't match the calluses. "It's a day's ride," he said. "Maybe more. Road gets rough past Miller's Ford. I don't mind rough." He glanced at her, quick, assessing. "No, I don't suppose you do." They rode in silence through town. Sarah kept her eyes forward, but she felt the stares. The banker's wife pursed her lips. Mr. Chen from the laundry gave a small nod, the only acknowledgement that wasn't hostile at the town limits. Thomas pulled something from his pocket. A piece of paper, folded many times. "Should have given you this before," he said. "Before you agreed." Sarah unfolded it, a deed. The land description was simple enough, but the acreage made her look twice. 3,000 acres. Either this was a forgery, or Thomas Harlan owned half a mountain. "This real?" "Sure, real as that ring on your finger." She studied the document. Official seal, territorial marking, filed in Helena 2 years back. The previous owner's name had been scratched out with ink, but she could make out part of it. Something ending in Ington, old money name. Why show me now? Thomas kept his eyes on the road because in about 6 hours, you're going to see things that don't match what I told you. Figured you should know I wasn't lying about having land. Just maybe. Understating. Sarah refolded the deed, handed it back. "What else you understating?" He was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, "Ask me again when we get there." They passed Miller's Ford as the sun peaked. Thomas knew exactly where to cross. Not the obvious, shallow spot where most wagons left ruts, but 30 yards downstream where the bottom was solid stone. He guided the horse through like he'd done it 100 times. On the far bank, he reached under the wagon seat, pulled out a canteen. Not the regular one hanging on the side, a different one, hidden. He offered it to her first. The water was cool, too cool for a canteen that had been sitting in August heat, and it tasted wrong, clean, like spring water, not river water. "Where'd this come from?" "There's a spring," he said, "about 2 miles up. I filled it this morning. You came down from your place, then back to town, then back again. That's an extra 40 miles. Thomas took the canteen, drank, capped it careful. Wanted to make sure the road was clear. Clear of what? He looked at her then, really looked. His eyes were gray as winter sky, and older than his face suggested. "I don't rightly know how to answer that, Mrs. Harland, except to say I've gotten used to being careful." "Mrs. Harland?" The name sat strange on her shoulders, like a coat that didn't fit yet. They climbed into the foothills as afternoon wore on. The road narrowed, trees pressing close. Sarah noticed things. A rope stretched between 2 pines, old, almost invisible, markers that looked natural but weren't. 3 rocks stacked just so. A branch broken at an exact angle. "You expecting trouble?" she asked. "No." He paused. "Not anymore." The way he said it made her wonder what had changed. What made him stop expecting trouble? Was it the marriage, the paper that made her legal, respectable in the eyes of the law, if not the town? As shadows lengthened, Thomas turned the wagon onto what looked like a deer path. Sarah grabbed the seat as they bounced over roots. "Shortcut," he said, but his knuckles were white on the reins. The path wound through thick pine, barely wide enough for the wagon, then suddenly opened into a clearing, and Sarah's breath caught. A cabin sat there. Yes, but not the rough shack she'd expected. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The logs were too straight, too uniform. Sarah's palm pressed flat against the wagon seat as Thomas pulled the brake. Each timber had been selected for matching width. The chinking between them wasn't newspaper and mud, but something white and smooth. Mortar, real mortar, like she'd seen in Helena buildings, glass windows. 4 of them across the front, real glass that caught the dying sunlight, not oiled paper or scraped hide. The porch didn't sag. The steps were cut stone. Thomas wrapped the reins around the brake handle. His jaw muscle jumped. "I'll get your bag." Sarah climbed down on her own. Her boots hit packed ground, not dirt, but crushed stone spread even and raked smooth. A path led to the door, lined with rocks painted white. Who painted rocks? The door had iron hinges, not leather, not rope. Iron oiled black against rust. The handle was brass, worn smooth in the center from use, years of use. Sarah! Thomas stood beside the wagon, her carpetbag in one hand, in his other hand a key, iron, heavy, the kind that fit serious locks. She watched him walk to the door. His boots knew where each stone was without looking. His hand found the lock in growing darkness without fumbling. The tumblers clicked, well-oiled. Expensive sound. The door swung inward, light spilled out. Not candlelight, not even oil lamp light. Something steadier, brighter. Sarah stepped forward, stopped, gas. She could smell it now. Faint hiss from inside. Gas lights meant pipes, meant a carbide generator somewhere, or natural gas tapped from the ground. Meant money, real money. Thomas set her bag inside, turned back to her. There's more. She followed him through the doorway. Pine floors, but not rough cut. Plain, smooth, fitted tight, polished until they gleamed. A rug, Turkish pattern, deep reds and blues. Furniture that matched, actually matched, not cobbled together from different makers. Kitchen to the left, cast iron stove, yes, but massive. 8 burner plates, warming ovens above and below, copper pots hanging from wrought iron hooks. A sink with a pump handle, indoor pump. Thomas walked past it all without looking, toward the back wall. Another door there, this one painted white. He put his hand on it, stopped. My first wife's father built this, the front part. His voice scraped rough. What's behind here? He built first. He pushed open the door. Sarah looked through, and her knees locked. Marble. A marble floor stretched back into shadows. Sarah's boots clicked against marble, white with gray veins running through like frozen rivers. The sound echoed in the space beyond the door. Not a room, a hallway, wide enough for 3 people to walk abreast, tall enough that the gas fixtures on the walls threw shadows upward into darkness. Thomas stayed behind her. She could hear his breathing change, quicken. Portrait frames lined both walls, gold leaf on carved wood. The paintings themselves were turned backward, brown paper backing facing out. Each one had a number written in pencil. 17 frames, before the hallway opened up. The room at the end stole the air from her lungs. Books, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, leather pinks and browns and blacks and deep reds, a ladder on brass rails. 2 levels. A walkway ran around the upper floor with iron railings worked into patterns of leaves and vines. Furniture covered in white sheets hunched like ghosts. Sarah pulled the nearest sheet. Burgundy velvet underneath, chairs that matched, a desk the size of her old room at the boarding house, mahogany polished to mirror shine. Wellington brought these from Boston. Thomas's voice came from the doorway. He hadn't stepped onto the marble. My first wife's father spent more on shipping than the books cost. Sarah's fingers traced book spines, gold lettering pressed into leather, languages she didn't recognize, Latin, Greek, maybe. Others she knew, Shakespeare, Byron, Shelley. How many? 3,000, maybe more. I stopped counting. She turned. Thomas stood exactly at the threshold, 1 foot on pine, 1 on marble, like a man caught between 2 worlds. This why you wanted a wife, someone to dust all this. His laugh came out cracked. No, God, no. He rubbed his face with both hands. I wanted someone who didn't know this existed, someone who'd take me without it. And now I don't know what to do. Sarah walked back to him. Her boots clicked 23 times on the marble. She stopped just out of reach. You could start by explaining why you're bleeding. Thomas looked down. Red had seeped through his shirt at the ribs. A circle the size of a silver dollar. It's nothing. It's blood. Sarah stepped past him, back into the front cabin. Sit! She found her carpet bag, pulled out the small leather pouch her grandmother had made. Willow bark, dried and crushed, calendula, rendered bear fat in a tin. Thomas sat at the kitchen table, still fully dressed. "Shirt," she said. His fingers worked the button slow, the homespun parted underneath. White linen so fine she could see his skin through it. That shirt had buttons, too, mother of pearl. He stopped halfway. "All of it," Sarah said. The linen peeled away from the wound, sticky. Not a rope burn. Deeper, something had gouged a line across his ribs, too straight to be accidental. "Knife?" she asked. "Wire?" Sarah's hands stopped. Someone strung wire across the road about a mile back, where the path narrows between those two big pines. The place they'd passed an hour ago. Her throat went tight. "You knew it was there." "I cut it this morning, when I came to town." He sucked air through his teeth as she pressed willow bark paste to the wound. "Thought I got it all. Must have missed a strand." "Who sets wire traps on your road?" Thomas watched her work, her fingers steady, spreading the bear fat over the paste, sealing it in. "Wellington had enemies, business rivals. Some thought they transferred to me when he died." "Did they? The enemies or the business?" Sarah tore strips from the muslin in her bag. "Both. The business, yes. The enemies." He lifted his arms so Shay could wrap the bandage around. "I thought they'd given up. Been 2 years since anyone tried anything." "Until today. Maybe. Or maybe it was just old wire I missed before." Sarah tied off the bandage. Her knuckles brushed his skin. Warm, fever warm. But that could be the August heat. "You don't believe that?" "No." She stepped back, looked at him, shirtless. He was leaner than the loose clothes suggested. Muscle from work, not leisure. Scars, too. Old ones. A puckered mark on his shoulder. Bullet wound, healed badly. Thin lines across his back she'd seen on men who'd been whipped. "Put your shirt on," she said. "The homespun one." He left the fine linen on the table. Sarah pumped water into a pot, set it on the stove. The stove had been banked but still held heat. She added wood, watched flames catch. "You want coffee?" she asked. "You don't have to serve me." She turned. "I'm making coffee. You want some or not?" "Yes." The kitchen had everything. Coffee grinder, beans in a sealed tin, not the cheap stuff from town, but something that smelled of chocolate and smoke. Cups on hooks, china so thin she could see her fingers through it. She chose 2 made of thick pottery instead. While the water heated, she studied the room. Everything had 2 versions, fine china and rough pottery, crystal glasses and mason jars, silver spoons and wooden ones, like someone couldn't decide which life they were living. "The wire," she said. "That why you wanted the marriage safety in being married?" "No." Thomas shifted in his chair. "Maybe, I don't know anymore." The water boiled. Sarah poured it over the grounds, let it steep. The smell filled the kitchen. Rich, dark, expensive. "Your first wife?" she said. "She know about all this?" She gestured at the hidden library. "She grew up with it, expected it, demanded more of it. That why you hide it now?" Thomas accepted the cup she handed him. His fingers overlapped hers for a moment on the pottery. "I hide it because everyone who's ever seen it wanted it more than they wanted me." Sarah sat across from him. The coffee burned her tongue. She drank it anyway. I don't want it." "I know. But you showed me anyway." "Yes. Why Thomas stared into his cup like it might hold answers. "Because you would have found it eventually. And I'm tired of keeping secrets from the only person who ever took me as I pretended to be." Through the window, full dark had settled, no moon yet. The gas lights hissed their steady rhythm. Somewhere in the walls, pipes ticked as they cooled. Sarah set down her cup. There more surprises? Yes. Show me. Thomas stood, walked to what looked like a plain wall beside the stove, pressed something. A panel swung open. Hidden hinges. Perfect balance. Behind it, a staircase led down into black. Wellington built the real house first, he said. Underground, in case of Indian attack, he said. Sarah looked at those stairs disappearing into earth. But that's not why. No. Thomas picked up a lantern, lit it with the match. The flame caught, threw his shadow huge against the wall. He built it to hide things he didn't want the world to know he had. He started down the stairs. Sarah followed. The temperature dropped with each step, cooler, cooler, cold. At the bottom, Thomas raised the lantern. Gold bars stacked like cordwood, a fortune, enough to buy half of Montana. But that wasn't what made Sarah's stomach drop. In the corner, half hidden by a sheet, bones, human bones, still wearing remnants of a dress. My first wife. Thomas's words fell flat in the cold air. Sarah's hand found the wall. Stung, rough cut, damp. The lantern flame flickered, made the shadows dance across the bones. The skull had rolled away from the body, faced the wall. Wellington said she fell from a horse. Thomas set the lantern on a wooden crate. Said they buried her in the family plot in Denver. The dress fabric, what remained, was blue silk. Tiny pearls still clung to the collar, topped, most fallen and scattered across the dirt floor like teeth. Sarah counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. How long you known? 6 months. Thomas pulled the sheet back over the bones. Found her when I came down for... He gestured at the gold bars. Needed money for taxes. Hadn't been down here in over a year before that. You didn't move her. Couldn't figure how to explain it. Sheriff would ask questions. Where I found her, why I was down here, why it took 2 years to find my own wife's body. Sarah stepped closer. The dress had a tear at the bodice. Straight line, not decay, cut. Someone killed her. Yes, Wellington, most likely. Sarah turned from the bones, faced him. The lantern light caught half his face, left the rest in shadow. You leave her here another 6 months. Didn't know what else to do. Footsteps above them, heavy boots on the pine floor. Thomas's hand moved to his hip. Empty. No gun. Thomas, a man's voice, muffled through the floor. Thomas, you hear? Thomas grabbed the lantern. Stay quiet. They climbed the stairs. Thomas closed the panel behind them, pressed it flush. Through the kitchen window, 2 horses stood beside their wagon. Good horses, fed grain, not grass. Saddles with silver conchos that caught the light from inside. The front door opened without a knock. A man filled the doorway, tall, thick through the shoulders, wearing clothes that tried to look common but weren't. Same game Thomas played, but worse at it. Jacob. Thomas kept his voice even. Long ride from Billings. Heard you got married? Jacob's eyes found Sarah, traveled from her face to her feet, back up, slow, deliberate. Heard wrong. Seems like a second man appeared behind Jacob, younger, nervous, hand twitching near his pistol. This is my wife. Thomas said, Sarah, Indian wife. Jacob stepped into the kitchen uninvited. Mud on his boots marked the clean floor. Interesting choice. Sarah stayed by the stove. The coffee pot was still hot, heavy, cast iron. What do you want, Jacob? Same thing I wanted last month and the month before. Jacob pulled out a chair, sat without invitation. Wellington's contracts, the ones you can't seem to find because they don't exist. Bullshit. The younger man spoke for the first time. My father saw them, signed them. Your father's dead, Pete, Thomas said. Year now. The contracts aren't. Jacob pulled papers from his coat, spread them on the table. Livestock agreements. Wellington promised us first rights to Army beef contracts, worth $500,000 over 5 years. Sarah read the documents upside down. Legal language, but gaps where signatures should be. Wellington promised a lot of things, Thomas said. Doesn't mean I have to honor them. You inherited everything else. Jacob's finger tapped the papers. The good and the bad. I inherited what was legal. This isn't... Pete stepped forward. You calling my father a liar? The coffee pot handle was 6 inches from Sarah's hand. Thomas saw her looking, small shake of his head. I'm saying Wellington made deals he couldn't keep. Thomas gathered the papers, handed them back. I can't help you. Jacob stood. The chair scraped against the floor. You know what Wellington did to people who crossed him? Yes. Same thing I'll do to you. Thomas's jaw muscle jumped. That a threat? It's information. Jacob looked at Sarah again. Pretty wife. Be a shame if something happened. Accidents occur out here. Remote place like this? Sarah picked up the coffee pot, poured herself a cup, hand steady. The men watched her. She took a sip, set the pot back on the stove, handle toward her. You should go, Thomas said. We'll be back. Jacob moved toward the door. With more friends. Unless you find those contracts, they don't exist. Then you better make them exist. They left, horses' hooves on gravel, fading into darkness. Thomas locked the door. Tested it. Army contracts? Sarah asked. Wellington was selling beef to Fort Ellis, promised Jacob and Pete's father exclusive supplier rights, but the Army requires competitive bids. Can't guarantee one supplier. So Wellington lied. Wellington did worse than that. Tommy pulled back the kitchen curtain. The writers were gone. He took their money. $50,000 up front for guaranteed contracts he couldn't deliver. Where's the money? Spent or hidden. I've been through every paper, every ledger. Nothing. Sarah walked to the window, looked out at darkness. That why the wire on the road? Probably. They'll be back. Yes. With more men? Yes. She turned. Thomas stood in the middle of his kitchen. His two-faced kitchen, with its poor and rich versions of everything. Blood had seeped through the bandage at his ribs. Small red circle. Show me the rest, she said. What? The house. All of it, every hidden door, every secret room. If men are coming to kill us over Wellington's lies, I need to know what I'm defending. Thomas studied her face. You're staying. Where else would I go? He moved to another wall. This one, beside the library door, pressed a spot that looked like wood grain. Another panel opened. Wellington liked hidden spaces. This room was smaller. A study, maps on the walls, Montana Territory, Wyoming, Dakota, red pins marked locations. What are the pins? Properties, land. Wellington bought or stole or seized for debts. Thomas traced a finger along the map. 17,000 acres total. You own all this? On paper. Sarah studied the map. One pin sat separate from the others. Far north, almost to Canada. What's that one? I don't know. Haven't been there. The deed just says mineral rights. Could be gold, could be copper, could be nothing. She opened the desk drawers, papers, ledgers. In the bottom drawer, wrapped in oilcloth, photographs, daguerreotypes. She unwrapped them. Wellington, younger, standing beside a woman who looked like Thomas's dead wife. But another woman, too. In the background, native, young, pregnant. Sarah held it to the light. Who's this? Thomas looked. His face changed. I don't know. But his voice caught. He did know, or suspected. Another photograph, same pregnant woman, holding a baby. Wellington in the picture, but turned away. only his profile visible. "Thomas?" I said, "I don't know." She set the photographs down. "More secrets!" "Not mine." "But you inherited them." "I didn't ask for any of this." His voice cracked. "The money, the land, the lies, the bodies in the cellar, none of it." Sarah rewrapped the photographs, placed them back exactly as they were. "But it's yours now." "Yes." Through the window, something moved, shadow against shadow. Sarah grabbed Thomas's arm, pointed. A figure by the wagon, gone through their supplies. Thomas reached behind the desk. A rifle hung on pegs, hidden by the map. He checked the load. "Stay here," he said. "No." He looked at her. "I'm not asking. I'm not obeying." The figure at the wagon stood up, turned toward the house, face pale in the gaslight from the windows. Young, maybe 15, native features. Sarah's breath caught. The boy's face, the bone structure, the nose, the set of the eyes. He looked exactly like the woman in the photograph, the pregnant woman with Wellington. The boy's hands came up empty, palms out. A slice of salt pork hung from his jacket pocket. Thomas lowered the rifle, but kept it ready. "You hungry?" The boy nodded. His eyes tracked between Thomas and Sarah, lingered on her face, her skin color. His shoulders dropped a fraction. "Come inside," Sarah said. "Sarah," Thomas started. "He's hungry." She opened the door wider. "Come on." The boy stayed frozen by the wagon. 15, maybe 16, thin through the shoulders, clothes patched and reitched, moccasins worn through at the heel. Sarah stepped onto the porch. "What's your name?" "Joseph." His voice cracked on the second syllable. "Joe, you from around here? Joe?" He pointed north. "My mother, she lived up there, lived, past tense." Sarah's chest tightened. "When?" "Last winter, fever." Thomas leaned the rifle against the doorframe. "You been living alone since winter?" Joe nodded. His stomach growled loud enough to hear across the yard. "Get inside," Thomas said. "Sarah's right. You need food." The boy moved like a spooked deer. Quick steps, ready to bolt. Inside, his eyes went everywhere. The gas lights, the fine rug, the copper pots. He touched nothing. Sarah sliced bread, thick pieces. Found butter in the cold box, another surprise. Ice in August meant an ice house somewhere. She set the food in front of Joe. He stared at it. "Eat," she said. His hands shook as he picked up the bread. First bite slow, second faster. By the third, he was wolfing it down. Thomas sat across from him. "Your mother, what was her name?" Joe stopped chewing, swallowed hard. Mary Crow Wing." Sarah caught Thomas's eye. The same last name as her own grandmother's clan. Crow Wing, not common. She ever mentioned a man named Wellington? Joe's whole body went still. The bread dropped from his hand. "You're him, the son?" "Stepson," Thomas corrected. "He married my mother when I was 12. He killed her." Joe's voice stayed flat. "My mother. He killed her. Last winter you said no." Joe shook his head. "Before, when I was young. He killed her, but she kept living, just empty. Then the fever finished it." Sarah poured coffee, set it in front of the boy. Steam rose between them. "How old are you?" 16, maybe 17. Mother wasn't sure exactly. Thomas pulled the photographs from his pocket, the ones from the desk, unwrapped them, careful, slid the one of the pregnant woman across the table. Joe's breathing hitched. His finger traced her face through the glass. "Where did you get this?" "Wellington's desk." "Is this your mother? Younger? Before?" Joe looked up. "He kept it hidden, with others." Thomas showed the second photograph, Mary holding a baby. "This you?" Joe nodded. His eyes were wet, but nothing fell. "He was your father." Sarah said. Not a question. He owned the ranch where she worked, laundry, cooking. Joe's fingers stayed on his mother's image. She was 15 when I... The math was simple. Wellington had been 40-something then. Mary Crow Wing, 15. She never told anyone, Thomas asked. Who would believe her Indian girl accusing a rich white man? Joe's laugh was bitter. She kept quiet, kept working. But after I was born, he has sent her away. Gave her a little money, not much. The property up north, Sarah said to Thomas. The pin on the map. Thomas understood. That's where he sent her. Shack and 20 acres of nothing. Joe pushed the photographs back. She tried to farm it. Couldn't. Tried to ranch. No money for cattle. Just scraped by. Why come here now? Thomas asked. Heard in town you married. Joe looked at Sarah. Indian woman? Thought maybe you'd be different than him. I am different. Prove it. The challenge hung in the air. Outside, a horse whinnied. Not their horse. Not Jacob's horses. They'd left. Thomas stood, moved to the window. More company. He grabbed the rifle. Joe, you recognize those horses? The boy peered out. His face went white. Mr. Garrison's men. Who's Garrison? Runs cattle south of here. Big operation. Joe backed away from the window. He's been trying to buy our land. Mother's land. My land now. 20 acres of nothing. Not nothing. Water. Year-round spring. Only water for miles during drought. Thomas checked the rifle load. How many times he tried to buy? 3? 4. Last time he said he'd take it, whether we sold or not. Boots on the porch. Heavy. Multiple sets. Thomas pointed to the panel beside the stove. Both of you, downstairs, now. I'm not hiding, Sarah said. They don't know you exist yet. Let's keep it that way. She wanted to argue, but Joe was already pulling her toward the panel. His fear was real, immediate. She let him lead her down the stairs into darkness above. The door opened without a knock. Harland. New voice. Gravelly. Older. Heard you were back. Garrison. Little late for a social call. Not social. Business. Through the floorboards, Sarah could hear boots. 3 men, maybe 4. Joe pressed against the wall beside her. In the faint light from above, she could see him shaking. That Crow Wing property, Garrison said. The woman's dead. Boy's gone missing. Land's abandoned. And I'm filing claim on it. Adverse possession. Unless someone can prove ownership, the boy owns it. What boy haven't seen him in months? Probably dead too, or run off. Joe's hand found Sarah's arm, squeezed. Even if he's gone. Land doesn't automatically become yours, Thomas said above them. Does if no one contests it. And who would you? Pause. Long pause. Why would I care about 20 acres of scrubland? Exactly. So we understand each other. We understand each other fine. Garrison laughed. Good, good. Wouldn't want any misunderstandings, like the ones Wellington had. Wellington's dead. Yes, he is. Funny how that happened, right after he started fighting me on water rights. Thomas's voice went cold. You saying something? I'm saying Wellington had an accident, fell off his horse, hit his head on a rock. Tragic. The doctor said what I paid him to say. Garrison's boots moved toward the door. You seem smarter than your stepfather, Harland. Stay that way. The door closed. Horses moved away. Sarah counted to 100 before she spoke. We go up now. Wait. Joe was crying. Silent. But his shoulders shook. He killed her. Garrison. He poisoned the water. I know it. Other families up there got sick too. The ones who wouldn't sell. Sarah thought about the bones in the corner. Wellington's first wife. Now Wellington himself. Not a fall, but murder, and Mary Crow Wing, dead from fever that might have been poison. "How many people have died for this land?" she asked the darkness. Above them, Thomas's footsteps crossed to the panel. It opened. Light spilled down. "Come up! They're gone!" They climbed the stairs. Thomas's face was tight, controlled. "Joe, you're staying here tonight?" "I can't. You can and you will." Thomas moved to the desk in the hidden study, pulled out papers. "I need to know everything about that northern property, every detail your mother told you." "Why?" "Because if Garrison wants it that bad, there's something there besides water." Sarah picked up the map, studied the northern pin, the mineral rights. Wellington marked it for mineral rights. Copper, maybe, or silver. Thomas spread out survey documents. "Joe, did your mother ever mention anyone else coming around Surveyors Mining Company men?" Joe wiped his face with his sleeve. "Man came once, 2 years ago, from Anaconda Company." Thomas and Sarah both looked up. Anaconda Copper Mining Company, the biggest in Montana. "What did he want?" "To test the water. Said he was checking all the springs in the territory. Mother ran him off with a shotgun." Thomas pulled out a specific document, held it to the light. "Christ!" "What?" He handed it to Sarah. "A geological survey from 3 years old. The northern property sat on what the survey called significant copper indicators." "Wellington knew," Thomas said. "He sent Mary there on purpose, close enough to keep an eye on, far enough that no one would connect them." "But why not mine it?" Sarah asked. "Look at the date. This was right before he married my mother. He was cash poor then, needed her money to stay afloat. Probably planned to develop it later." Joe stood. "You saying my mother sat on a copper mine for 17 years and never knew?" "I'm saying Wellington used her to hold the land until he was ready. And now Garrison knows, or suspects." Sarah set down the survey. "So what do we do?" Thomas looked at her, at Joe. "Back at her. We go there, tonight, before Garrison files his claim." "That's a day's ride," Sarah said. "Not if we take the back trail. 6 hours, maybe less. In the dark. Moon'll be up soon." Joe shook his head. "Mr. Harland, Garrison's probably got men watching the road. Then we don't take the road." Sarah watched Thomas pull more documents from the desk. Land deeds, surveys, mining claims. His hands moved fast but sure. "You're going to claim it yourself," she said. "No, I'm going to prove Joe owns it. Then I'm going to make sure Garrison can never touch it." "How?" Thomas smiled. First time she'd seen it. Changed his whole face. "By doing what Wellington should have done. Filing the mining claim tonight, before Garrison knows we're gone. The claims office is in Helena. That's 2 days. The branch office is in Wickes. That's 4 hours from the northern property." Sarah calculated. "By 10 hours total. Dawn arrival if they left now." "Garrison will know you're gone come morning," Joe said. "Let him. By then it'll be legal." Thomas loaded a saddlebag with the documents. "Joe, can you ride?" "Yes, Sarah." She nodded. Riding astride would destroy her dress. She didn't care. Thomas disappeared into another room, came back with 3 pistols, handed one to Sarah, one to Joe. "You know how to use these?" Joe nodded. Sarah checked the load, spun the cylinder. Her uncle had taught her years ago. Thomas saw her competence, nodded approval. "There's something else," Joe said, "about the land. Mother told me once, when the fever was bad, she said Wellington hid something there." "What?" She didn't know, but she saw him once, middle of the night, digging near the spring, burying something. Thomas and Sarah looked at each other. When was this? Right before he sent her away. Right after I was born. 17 years ago. What had Wellington needed to hide 17 years ago? Sarah thought about the bones in the cellar, the cut dress, the missing pearls. Thomas, your wife, when did she die? His face went pale. 17 years ago. The horses stood ready in moonlight. 3 mounts. Thomas had kept saddled in the barn, like he'd been expecting to run. Sarah's dress bunched awkward around the saddle horn. Joe helped her adjust the stirrups while Thomas loaded the saddlebags. Wait! Sarah grabbed Thomas's arm. 17 years ago, you're telling me Wellington killed your mother and hid evidence on that northern property? Not my mother, my first wife, Eleanor. Thomas's jaw worked. I was 22. She was 19. You were married before your mother married Wellington. 6 months before, Eleanor's father arranged it. Business merger disguised as marriage. He tightened the cinch on his horse. She died 2 weeks after their wedding. The barn smelled of hay and leather and horse sweat. A mouse scratched in the walls. Sarah waited. Wellington said she fell, hit her head. Got Thomas's hands stilled on the leather. But Joe's story about Wellington burying something, the timing, you think he killed her and hid evidence there. I think he killed her and made Mary Crowwing watch him hide it, keep her quiet by keeping her close. Thomas swung into the saddle. We need to go. They rode single file through the back pasture. No road, just deer trails and memory. Thomas led, Joe middle, Sarah behind. The horse picked their way, careful over rocks. Pine branches caught at Sarah's hair. 2 hours in. Thomas raised his hand. Stop, smoke smell, faint, campfire, not far off. He dismounted, tied his horse to a tree, crept forward on foot. Sarah and Joe waited. Her horse shifted, nervous. She stroked its neck, warm, damp with sweat. Thomas came back running. Garrison's men, 4 of them, camping right on the trail. They know about the back way. Someone told them. Thomas looked at Joe. Anyone else know about this trail? No, nobody. Mother and I never... Joe stopped. His face changed. Mr. Whitaker. Who? Man who sold us supplies sometimes. He delivered out to our place twice. Would have seen the trail. Thomas swore under his breath. Whitaker works for Garrison, does his books. I didn't know. Not your fault. Thomas studied the terrain. Ridge to the left and ravine to the right. We go around, up and over. Horses can't make that climb, Sarah said. Then we walk. They tied the horses. Thomas pulled the saddlebags free, distributed the weight, documents in oilcloth, ammunition, water. Sarah carried her share without complaint. The weight pulled at her shoulders. The climb was brutal, loose shale that slid underfoot. Sarah's hands bled from grabbing rock edges. Joe wheezed. Months of poor eating had left him weak. Thomas pulled him up the steeper sections. At the ridgetop, they could see Garrison's camp below. 4 men around a fire, rifles stacked military style. They're not trying to hide, Sarah whispered. Don't need to. They think they've got the only trail blocked. Down the far side was worse, controlling the descent. Sarah's boots slipped. She slid 10 feet, caught herself on a pine trunk. Bark scraped her palms raw. Joe fell twice. The second time, his ankle twisted. Not broken, but he limped. At the bottom, Thomas oriented himself by stars. 3 miles to the property, another 4 to Wicky's. I can't make 7 miles, Joe said. His ankle was swelling. You'll make it. Sarah tore strips from her petticoat, wrapped his ankle tight. Or we carry you. They walked. Sarah's world narrowed to the next step, next breath. The documents in the pack grew heavier. Moon shadows played tricks. Every tree could be a man. Every rock could hide a gun. A creek appeared. The sound hit them first. Water over stones. Then the smell and green and mineral. "The spring," Tsmana Joe said. "This feeds from our spring." They followed it upstream. The land opened into a small valley. A cabin sat dark against the hillside, smaller than Sarah expected. One room, maybe two, chimney crumbling. "Home," Joe said. The word caught in his throat. Thomas was already moving toward the spring itself. It bubbled up from the rocks, formed a pool, then the creek. He knelt, cupped water, smelled it. No poison. Garrison lied about that. Then what killed her? Pneumonia, probably. Real fever. Thomas stood. "Joe, where did Wellington dig?" Joe limped to a cluster of rocks 20 yards from the spring. "Here." Mother said, "Here." Thomas found a shovel in the cabin's lean-to. Old, but solid. He started digging. The ground was hard-packed. Each shovel strike rang metallic in the quiet. 2 feet down. The shovel hit something, not rock. Wood. Thomas cleared dirt with his hands. A box, cedar, to keep rot away. He pulled it free. "Too small for a body," Sarah said. The lock had rusted through. Thomas broke it with a rock. Inside tucked papers, documents, and jewelry. Pearl necklace, diamond ring, gold hair combs. "Eleanor's," Thomas said. "Wedding gifts from her father." Sarah held the papers to moonlight, legal documents, transfer of holdings, all dated 2 weeks after Eleanor's death. Wellington transferred everything to his name before he reported her dead. She said, "While her body was in our cellar." Another document, marriage certificate. But not Thomas and Eleanor, Wellington and Eleanor. Sarah read it twice. This says, "Wellington married Eleanor, not you." Thomas took the paper. His hands shook. "This is fake. Has to be. Or the other one was fake." Sarah found another sheet, a letter in a woman's hand. "Thomas, this is from your mother." He read it, sat down hard on the ground. "She knew," he said. "My mother knew Wellington killed Eleanor. She helped him." The letter was clear. Instructions for moving the body, for creating false documents, for keeping Thomas quiet with lies. "She drugged you," Sarah said, reading over his shoulder. "Laudanum in your food, to keep you confused while they handled everything." Joe stood apart, watching. Why keep all this? Why not burn it? "Insurance," Thomas said. "Wellington kept it to control my mother. If she ever turned on him, he had proof she was accomplice. But then why bury it here?" Thomas looked at the boy. "Because you were his insurance against Mary, and this was insurance against everyone." Sarah folded the papers careful. "This changes everything. Eleanor was murdered. Wellington stole your inheritance. Your mother helped. And now they're all dead except me. And except whoever else knows." Sarah pointed at fresh marks in the dirt. "Someone's been digging here recently." Thomas held the lantern close. Boot prints, not weathered. Maybe a week old. "Garrison," Joe said. "No." Thomas studied the print. "Too small. And look, fancy heel, city boots." Sarah's neck prickled. "Jacob." "What?" "Jacob. From Billings. His boots. I noticed the mud pattern in your kitchen. Same star pattern in the heel." Thomas looked closer. She was right. Star pattern from custom boots. "Jacob knew," Thomas said. "Somehow he knew about this place." "Wellington's papers," Sarah said. "You said you went through everything. Did Jacob help?" "His father did. Acted as executor. Jacob clerked for him. So Jacob had access to everything and found references to this place. Started it putting pieces together." Joe grabbed Thomas's arm. "Mr. Harland, if he's been here, If he knows about the coppers, he's already filed the claim. Sarah finished. Thomas stood. Dirt fell from his knees. When Sarah calculated, boot prints are maybe 5 days old. If he rode straight to Helena, 3 days to file. It's already done. Then we're too late. No. Thomas pulled out the survey documents. Not if we can prove his claim was fraudulent, based on stolen information. How do we prove that? Thomas held up Eleanor's jewelry. With this, and with witnesses. What witnesses? Everyone's dead. Not everyone. Thomas looked at Joe. Your mother kept a journal, didn't she? You mentioned it once. Joe nodded. Hidden in the cabin. That it. Joe limped to the cabin. Came back with a leather-wrapped book. Pages yellowed, filled with cramped writing. Thomas flipped through. Dates? Names? Everything Mary Crow Wing had seen and heard in 17 years, including a full account of the night Wellington buried the box. And another entry, 2 months ago. A man visiting, asking questions, offering money for information about Wellington's secrets. The man's name, Jacob Thornton. He came here, Thomas said. Talked to Mary. She refused to tell him anything. But he came back, Joe said, after she died. I saw tracks, but thought it was Garrison's men. Sarah took the journal, read the last entry. Mary's handwriting, shaky with fever. They will come for the secret. Do not let them have it. The truth belongs to the dead. She knew she was dying, Sarah said. Knew they'd come. So she told you about Wellington, but, Thomas said to Joe, to protect you. No. Joe shook his head. She told me to find you. Said Thomas Harland was the only honest one in a family of thieves. A horse whinnied in the distance. Not theirs. They'd left them over the ridge, multiple horses, coming fast. Thomas grabbed the box, the journal, the documents. Move, now! They ran for the cabin. Joe's ankle gave out. Thomas caught him, half carried him. The door was barred from inside. Sarah slammed her shoulder into it. The bar cracked, but held. Hoofbeats closer, torches visible through trees. Window, Thomas said. Too small. Joe might fit, not the adults. Sarah grabbed the shovel, swung it at the door bar. Wood splinter burst. Riders burst into the clearing. Not Garrison's men, Jacob, with 6 others, all armed. Well, Jacob called out. Family reunion? Jacob's torch threw orange light across the cabin wall. Sarah counted the men behind him. 6, all carrying rifles. The one on the left kept touching his pistol grip, nervous habit. The one beside Jacob sat too straight in his saddle. Former soldier, maybe. Drop the shovel, Jacob said. Sarah let it fall. The metal rang against stone. Thomas stepped forward, keeping Joe behind him. The box with Eleanor's jewelry was tucked under his arm. How'd you find us? Followed the breadcrumbs. Jacob dismounted. His boots hit dirt with practiced ease. You think you're the only one who knows the back trails my father rode with Wellington for 20 years? The other men stayed mounted, rifles across their laps, patient. Found something interesting in Helena yesterday, Jacob said. He pulled papers from his coat. Mining claim, filed nice and legal. This whole valley, the spring, the copper underneath, based on stolen information, Thomas said. Prove it. Mary Crow Wing's journal. She documented your visit, your questions about Wellington's secrets. Jacob smiled. Dead woman's diary. Against legal documentation, which you think a judge believes? The soldier-straight rider shifted. His horse sensed tension, stepped sideways. Sarah noticed he controlled it with his knees, hands free for the rifle. What do you want? Thomas asked. Same thing I wanted before, the army contracts. But now I'm thinking bigger. Jacob's eyes found the box under Thomas's arm. What's in there? Nothing. Nothing. You dug up at 3 in the morning. Jacob drew his pistol, not rushed, smooth. Show me. Thomas opened the box. Moonlight caught the pearls, the diamonds, the gold. Eleanor's jewelry, Jacob said. Thought that went missing when she died. When Wellington murdered her. According to what more dead women's stories, Jacob stepped closer. Here's what I know. You're trespassing on my legal claim, with stolen property, and the son of a dead whore who has no legal standing. Joe lunged forward. Thomas caught him, held him back. The boy's breathing came ragged. Oh, did I offend? Jacob looked at Joe. Your mother spread her legs for Wellington. What else you call that? Sarah's hand found a rock. Palm semel, rough granite. But I'm reasonable. Jacob continued. Here's my offer. You sign over the Harland estate. All of it, land, house, gold in the basement. You know about the gold. I know everything. My father kept excellent records. Jacob cocked the pistol. In exchange, you 3 walk away tonight. Never come back. And if we refuse, then you don't walk away. The wind shifted. Sarah smelled something wrong. Kerosene, fresh. One of the mounted men had a bottle hanging from his saddle, rags stuffed in tops. They were going to burn the cabin to it, with or without people inside. You can't kill all 3 of us, Thomas said. Someone would talk. Who the Indian woman no one knows you married, the half-breed boy who doesn't legally exist, you. Jacob laughed. Thomas Harland, unstable since his first wife's death, finally snapped. Killed 2 Indians and himself. Tragic. The sheriff is my cousin. Sarah's rock grew warm in her hand. 20 feet to Jacob. Too far. But the kerosene man was closer. 12 feet, maybe. I need an answer, Jacob said. Sign or die. Choose. Thomas looked at Sarah. She gave the smallest head shake. His eyes went to her hand. Saw the rock. I need to think, Thomas said. 30 seconds? Sarah shifted her weight. The kerosene rider was watching Thomas, not her. His rifle rested loose. The bottle hung from a leather loop. 20 seconds, Joe whispered something. Prayer, maybe. Or curse. 10! Sarah threw the rock. It hit the kerosene bottle dead center. Glass shattered. Fuel splashed across the horse's flank. The animal screamed, reared. The rider flew backward. His rifle discharged into the air. Thomas moved, not for Jacob, for the fallen rider's gun. Joe dove the opposite direction, toward the cabin door. Jacob's pistol swung toward Sarah. She dropped, rolled. The bullet sparked off stone where she'd stood. The spooked horse crashed into 2 other mounts. Men cursed, fought for control. Thomas came up with the rifle, fired. A rider clutched his shoulder, dropped his weapon. Sarah scrambled for the shovel. Jacob tracked her with his pistol. Second shot, hot air past her ear. She swung the shovel like a club, connected with his knee. Jacob went down hard. The pistol flew from his hand. Sarah kicked it away, raised the shovel. Stop! The soldier-straight rider had his rifle on Thomas. Nobody move. Everyone froze. Sarah's shovel hung mid-swing. Thomas held an empty rifle, 1 shot only. 3 men were still mounted and armed. The wounded one was trying to stop his shoulder bleeding. Jacob writhed on the ground, holding his knee. McBride, Jacob gasped. Shoot them! The soldier, McBride, kept his rifle steady. You said no killing unless necessary. It's necessary now. No, it's not. McBride looked at Thomas. You Wellington's stepson. Yes. He cheated my brother. Cattle deal. Left him bankrupt. McBride's rifle didn't waver. But you made it right. Sent money to his widow. I tried to fix what Wellington broke. I know. McBride lowered his rifle. I'm done here. You can't quit. Jacob tried to stand. His knee buckled. Watch me. McBride turned his horse. "Anyone else coming?" 2 riders followed him. The wounded man struggled to mount his spooked horse. That left 2. Bad odds still, but better. Jacob dragged himself to sitting. "You're making a mistake." "Thomas, I filed that claim. This land is mine." "Actually, it's not." Everyone turned. A new voice. A woman stepped from behind the cabin, old native, wearing a sheriff's badge. "Sheriff Crow Dog," she said. "Tribal police. This land is reservation boundary. Treaty of 18th. "Bullshit," Jacob said. "This is Montana territory. Overlapping jurisdiction." She pulled out papers. "I've been watching since you arrived. Heard everything. Confession to planned murder. Conspiracy. Fraud. You have no authority here. I've got enough." She looked at Thomas. "Mary Crow Wing was my cousin. Joe's my blood. This land stays with him." More horses. From the other direction, Sarah's stomach dropped. Garrison's men. No. Soldiers. Army Blue. 6 of them. "Captain Morrison," the lead soldier said. "Fort Ellis. Sheriff Crow Dog requested backup." Jacob's face went white. "You can't arrest me. I've done nothing wrong." "Threatening murder is wrong," Captain Morrison said. "Fraud is wrong. And Mr. Thornton, we've been investigating your father's dealings with Wellington. Army beef that never arrived. Money that disappeared. I don't know anything about that. Your signature is on the receipts." 2 soldiers dismounted, pulled Jacob to his feet. He screamed when weight hit his knee. "The mining claim," Jacob gasped. "I filed it legal. Based on information obtained through extortion and threats," Sheriff Crow Dog said. "Judge will overturn it." They dragged Jacob to a horse. The 2 remaining men threw down their weapons. Captain Morrison looked at Thomas. "We'll need statements, all of you." "You'll have them." The captain studied the box under Thomas's arm. "What's that?" "Evidence. Wellington murdered his first wife, my wife. That'll need to come with us." Thomas handed it over. "The journal, too. Mary Crow Wing documented everything." Sarah watched them secure Jacob to a saddle, his face twisted with pain and rage. As they led him past, he leaned toward her. "This isn't over," he whispered. "I've got friends, money, lawyers." "You've got nothing," Sarah said. The soldiers rode away with their prisoners. Sheriff Crow Dog stayed. She looked at Joe. "Your mother would be proud," she said. "You stood your ground." Joe's eyes filled. He nodded, couldn't speak. "The land is yours," she continued. "Mining rights, too, if you want them." "I don't know anything about mining." "You'll learn." She looked at Thomas. "Or you'll find partners you trust." Dawn was breaking. Pink light touched the mountain peaks. The spring gurgled its endless song. Birds started their morning calls. Sarah walked to the spring, knelt, washed the blood from her hands, her own from climbing, Jacob's from the fight. The water ran cold and clean. Thomas joined her. "You all right?" "Yes." "That was brave? The rock?" "That was desperate," he smiled. "Almost. Same thing sometimes." Joe limped over. "What now?" Thomas looked at the cabin, small, run down, but standing. "Now we fix this place up to make it livable. For who? You. This is your home. I can't run a copper mine." "Then don't run cattle. The water's valuable enough." Thomas stood. "Or partner with someone. Your choice." Sarah noticed Thomas swaying. His shirt, blood had soaked through the bandage. The wound had reopened. Fresh red spreading. "Thomas." He looked down. "It's nothing." His eyes rolled back. He fell forward. Sarah caught him before he hit the ground. His weight drove her to her knees. Blood on her hands again. Hot. Too much. "Joe, help me." They turned him over. The bandage had completely soaked through, but there was more blood, another wound. When Sarah tore his shirt open, there, lower, a bullet grazed along his ribs. Jacob's second shot hadn't missed entirely. "When did this happen?" Joe asked. Sarah pressed her hands against the wound. "Doesn't matter. He's bleeding out." Sarah's hands slipped in the blood. Too much, too fast. The wound gaped wider with each breath Thomas took. Joe ripped his shirt off, bunched it against the bleeding. "The cabin, drag us," Sarah said. "Drag him." They each took an arm. Thomas's boots carved grooves in the dirt. His head lolled back. Sarah's grandmother's medicine bag was back at the main house. Nothing here but what Mary might have left. The cabin door stuck. Joe kicked it. Wood splintered inward. Dust and mouse droppings. A rope bed with moldy straw mattress. Table with one leg shorter than the others. But shelves on the wall. Jars. Bottles. Sarah left Joe pressing the wound. Her hands flew over the containers. Cobwebs. Dried herbs gone gray with age. There. A blue bottle. She pulled the cork. Smelled. Carbolic acid. Half full. "Build a fire," she told Joe. "But now, boil water." The boy stumbled to the fireplace. Kindling in a basket. His hands shook as he struck flint to steel. Spark, spark. Finally, flame. Sarah found clean cloth. Not much. Flour sacks folded in a drawer. She tore them into strips. The carbolic would clean. But she needed to stop the bleeding first. Thomas's breathing went shallow. Quick pants like a hurt dog. His skin gray-white except where blood painted it red. "Don't you die." Sarah pressed harder on the wound. "You don't get to die now." Water in the pot, not boiling yet, but warm. Sarah poured carbolic on the wound. Thomas jerked, eyes flying open. Sound came from his throat, not quite scream. "Hold him," she told Joe. The boy put his weight across Thomas's chest. Sarah could see the wound clear now. Not just a graze. The bullet had torn through muscle, maybe nicked a rib. Every heartbeat pumped more blood. She needed to sew it. Nothing to sew with. Her eyes swept the cabin. There, fishing line on a nail, hook still attached. She cut the hook off with her teeth, threaded the line through a darning needle from the shelf. "This'll hurt," she said to Thomas. His eyes found hers, gray as winter ice. "Do it!" First stitch. The needle pushed hard through skin. Thomas's body went rigid. Joe held him down. Second stitch. Third. Blood made everything slippery. The needle kept sliding in her grip. "Talk to him," she told Joe. "Keep him awake." "About what?" "Anything." Joe started rambling. About his mother, the garden she tried to grow, how jackrabbits ate everything. His voice cracked and steadied, cracked again. Sarah kept sewing. 12 stitches. 15? The bleeding slowed but didn't stop. She packed the wound with clean cloth, wrapped it tight. Thomas's breathing evened out, deeper. His eyes stayed closed. "Is he?" Joe started. "Alive. Barely." Sheriff Crow Dog appeared in the doorway. "Heard shouting? What happened?" "Bullet graze, opened up. Maybe hit something inside." The sheriff looked at the blood-soaked bandages. "He needs a doctor. Nearest one's in Wicky's. 4 hours. He doesn't have 4 hours." Sarah felt Thomas's pulse. Weak, fast. Maybe not even one. Sheriff Crow Dog knelt beside them, pulled something from her bag, a leather pouch beaded with porcupine quills. "My grandmother's medicine." She opened it, dried plants. Sarah didn't recognize. Bark, seeds. The sheriff selected items careful, ground them between 2 stones. Yarrow for bleeding, willow for pain, prairie coneflower for infection. She mixed it with water, made a paste, Help me unwrap him." They peeled the bandages back. Blood started flowing again. Sheriff Crow Dog packed the paste directly into the wound. The bleeding slowed more, nearly stopped. "Old medicine," she said, "sometimes better than new." Thomas's color improved, faint pink replacing gray. His breathing deepened. "He'll live?" Sarah asked. "Maybe, if fever doesn't take him, if the wound doesn't rot." Sheriff Crow Dog stood. "I'll send someone to Wicky's. Doctor should be here by afternoon." She left. Joe stayed by the fire, feeding it steady. Sarah sat beside Thomas, watching his chest rise and fall. His eyes opened, found hers immediately. "Sarah, don't talk. Need to." His hand moved toward hers. She let him take it. His grip was weak but warm. "The lies, all of it. I'm sorry." "Later." "No, now, while I can." He struggled to sit. She pushed him down. "I meant to tell you at the cabin, was working up courage. To tell me about the wealth? To tell you I was already falling for you in town. When you counted those coins so careful." His thumb brushed her knuckles. "You looked at that dollar like it was the last one in the world. And I thought, she understands. She knows what it means to have nothing. You had everything. I had money. Not the same thing." Sarah pulled her hand away. "You lied." "Yes." "From the beginning." "Yes." She stood, walked to the window. Outside, morning sun hit the mountains. Beautiful, cold. "My grandmother told me once," she said, "trust is like a clay pot. Once broken, you can patch it, but the cracks always show." "I know. Do you?" She turned. "You married me on a lie. Brought me to a house full of ghosts. Nearly got us killed because of secrets you kept. All true. And now you want forgiveness because you're bleeding. No." Thomas tried to push himself up, failed. "I want you to know the truth. Finally, all of it." Sarah waited. "I've been alone since Eleanor died. 17 years. Not just unmarried. Alone. Empty." His voice caught. "Then you walked into Garrett's store, proud, dignified, counting coins like they mattered, and I thought, maybe someone could see me, not the money, not the name, me." "So you hid everything?" "I tested you. Wrong word. I wanted to know if you'd choose me poor." "I did." "Yes, and that terrified me more than anything." He closed his dead eyes, "because then I had something to lose." Joe came over with water, helped Thomas drink. Half spilled down his chin. "Mr. Harland," Joe said, "thank you for standing up for me, for my mother's name." "She deserved better," Thomas said, "from all of us. She got what she got, made peace with it before the end." As Sarah watched them, the wounded white man who'd inherited everything, the native boy who'd inherited nothing, both Wellington's legacy in different ways. "What will you do?" she asked Joe. "With the land?" "Don't know. Sheriff Crow Dog says there's programs. Government might help develop the mine, or I could lease it." He looked at Thomas. "Unless you want to partner." "That's your choice, your land." "But you know business. I know nothing." Thomas considered. "Start small, too. Run a few cattle, use the water rights as leverage, learn the rest as you go." "Will you teach me if Sarah doesn't leave me to die?" "Yes." They both looked at her, waiting. She walked back to Thomas, checked his bandage. Bleeding had stopped completely. The herbs were working. "I should leave," she said. "Take the horse, ride to town, never look back." "Yes," Thomas agreed. "You should." "Any reason not to?" Thomas reached for something in his pocket. winced at the movement, pulled out the tin ring, the one from their wedding. Green oxidation marked where her finger had worn it. "This was honest," he said. "The only honest thing that day. I bought it with my last real dollar. Everything else was Wellington's money." Sarah took the ring, lightweight, worthless. "True. You're asking me to stay. I'm asking you to choose again, now that you know everything. Everything. There's 50,000 in gold in the basement. The house has 12 rooms I haven't shown you. There's a ranch in Wyoming, properties in Denver, bank accounts in San Francisco." He breathed careful around the pain. "And there's me, liar, coward, man who needed you to save him with a rock." Sarah turned the ring over. Inside, scratched tiny, were initials, T, S, C, F. He'd had them engraved. When? Before the ceremony. "After the doctor's coming." She said, "You'll live." "That's not an answer." She slipped the ring on, not the left hand, the right. "It's all you get for now." Thomas's eyes followed the ring. Fair enough. Hoofbeats outside, multiple horses. Sarah tensed. Joe grabbed the rifle. Sheriff Crow Dog's voice. "It's me. Brought help." The door opened. Not the doctor, Mrs. Aldrich. The housekeeper from Thomas's house. Gray hair pinned severe. Black dress dusty from hard riding. "Mr. Harland." She took in the blood, the rough stitches, the herb paste. "What have you done now?" "Got shot a little." "More than a little from the look of it." She set down a medical bag. "Proper supplies. Sheriff Crow Dog fetched me. Said you were dying. Was Sarah fixed it?" Mrs. Aldrich looked at Sarah. First time. Really looked. Not at the native features. At the blood under the fingernails. The torn dress. The steady hands. "You did this, the stitching." "Yes." "Good work. Kept him alive." Mrs. Aldrich opened her bag. Real bandages. Laudanum. Clean instruments. "I was a nurse before Wellington hired me. 20 years tending soldiers." She examined the wound. Gentle despite her stern face. "Needs proper cleaning, restitching, but you saved him." Sheriff Crow Dog's medicine saved him. "Both did." Mrs. Aldrich prepared a syringe. "This'll make him sleep. Keep him still while I work." She injected Thomas. His eyes went heavy, found Sarah's face. "Stay," he whispered. "Please." Then nothing. Deep sleep. Safe. Mrs. Aldrich worked steady. Removed Sarah's rough stitches. Cleaned. Deep. Sewed with proper suture. Her hands never shook. "You're the new wife," she said while working. "Yes. He told me this morning, before riding out. Said he'd married poorly once for money. Now married well for love. He doesn't know me enough to love me." "No." Mrs. Aldrich tied off a stitch. "He gave you the tin ring. You know about that. I know everything that happens in that house. Know he bought that ring with money he earned splitting wood. Only honest money he'd touched in years." Sarah watched the woman's efficient movements. "You didn't approve. When you saw me, I didn't know you. Still don't." Another stitch. "But you stood between him and guns. That tells me something." "Tells you what?" Mrs. Aldrich looked up. "That you're either very brave or very foolish. Either way, you'll fit in that family." She finished the stitching, wrapped fresh bandages. Thomas breathed deep and even. "He'll sleep for hours," Mrs. Aldrich said. "Needs rest? Lots of it. Will he recover? If infection doesn't set in? If he doesn't tear the stitches?" She stood. "I brought supplies. Food, medicine, changes of clothes for both of you. You expected us to stay here. I expected you to run. Most would." Mrs. Aldrich studied Sarah's face. "But you're still here." Sarah looked at Thomas. Vulnerable in sleep. younger looking without the weight of secrets. "For now," she said. Mrs. Aldrich gathered her supplies. "There's something else. Man came to the house this morning. Before Sheriff Crow Dog arrived." "Who?" "Banker from Billings. Said Jacob Thornton owes considerable money. Claims the Harland estate as collateral." Sarah's stomach dropped. "Can he do that? If he has papers. Proof." Mrs. Aldrich pulled out an envelope. "He left these. Wants them signed." Sarah opened it. "Legal documents. Transfer of property. All of it. Everything Thomas owned. The signature line was blank, waiting. And at the bottom, a note in different handwriting. Sign it, or more men will come. Better men, men who won't miss." Sarah held the papers up to the light from the window. Watermarks, official seals, the banker's name, Harrison Wells, First National of Billings. The threat at the bottom was written in different ink, fresher. "Mrs. Aldrich," Sarah said. "This banker, describe him." "Short, soft, spectacles, nervous hands, alone. Had 2 men with him, stayed by the horses." Sarah folded the papers, slipped them into her dress pocket. "When did he say he'd return?" "Tomorrow noon." Thomas stirred on the bed. The laudanum was wearing off. His hand searched the air. Sarah caught it, held it still. "Joe," she said, "ride to Fort Ellis. Find Captain Morrison. Tell him about these documents. But go, fast as you can." The boy left. His footsteps faded into hoofbeats. Sarah looked at Mrs. Aldrich. "Can you stay with Thomas?" "Where are you going?" "To end this." Sarah took Sheriff Crow Dog's horse. Better than Thomas's. Trained for rough country. The ride back to the main house took 3 hours. She pushed hard through the narrow passages where the ambush had been. No one. The house sat quiet. Too quiet. Sarah tied the horse behind the barn, approached from the side. Kitchen door was open, swinging in the breeze. Inside, pass out, drawers pulled out, papers scattered. Someone had searched. Recent? Coffee still warm on the stove. Sarah heard breathing, soft, from the library. She took a knife from the kitchen, moved silent through the hidden door. The library was dark, curtains drawn. A figure sat in Wellington's chair. "Mrs. Harland?" Man's voice, not the banker. "Or do you prefer a crow feather?" A match struck. Lamplight revealed a thin man, well-dressed, clean-shaven, holding a ledger. "Wells, I presume?" "Indeed." He set the ledger down. "I have been reviewing Wellington's records. Fascinating reading." "Those are private." "Were private until Jacob Thornton used them as collateral." Wells stood. "He owes my bank $40,000, borrowed to finance his mining claim." "The claim that was fraudulent, allegedly fraudulent. Courts haven't decided." Wells walked to the bookshelf, ran his finger along leather spines. "Beautiful collection. Worth a fortune. Not for sale. Everything's for sale. Just a matter of price." He pulled out a book, Shakespeare, first folio. "This alone would cover part of Jacob's debt." Sarah kept the knife low, hidden in her skirts. "Jacob's debt isn't ours." "No. But he used information from this estate to secure the loan. Information he claimed gave him rights to certain properties." Wells opened the book, including mineral rights to a northern parcel. "Very valuable." "Apparently." "That land belongs to Joseph Crow Wing. The half-breed boy, he can't own land, not legally, not unless someone with standing sponsors him. Sheriff Crow Dog has tribal authority only. This requires territorial law." Wells closed the book. "Which brings us to you." "Me?" "You're Thomas Harland's legal wife. If something happened to him, you'd inherit. As a married woman, you have standing." He smiled. You could sponsor the boy's claim. Sarah's grip tightened on the knife. Thomas isn't dying. No, I heard he was shot, bleeding badly. He'll recover. Perhaps, perhaps not. Wells returned to the desk. But that's academic. The real question is whether you'll sign these papers. No, not even to protect him. Wells pulled out another document, this one older, yellowed. Wellington's will, the real one. Not the forgery Thomas has been using. Sarah's throat tightened. What? Thomas Harland inherited nothing. Wellington left it all to charity. Specifically, to a fund for the education of savage children. Wells's smile widened. Ironic, given his own savage acts. You're lying. Read it yourself. Sarah took the paper, Wellington's signature, witnessed. Dated a month before his death. Thomas has been living on stolen money for 2 years. Wells said, I could have him arrested, imprisoned, unless I sign everything over to you, to the bank, to cover Jacob's debts. Wells pulled out a pen. Simple transaction. Sarah set the will down. No. Jacob threatened murder. He's under arrest. His debts die with his freedom. Perhaps. But Thomas's fraud doesn't. Wells stood. Sign, or I take this will to the authorities. With what proof it's real? With this. Another paper, letter from a lawyer in Denver, confirming he drew up the will, kept a copy, would testify. Sarah's mind raced. If true, they'd lose everything. If false, proving it would take months, years. I need time, she said. You have until noon tomorrow, as promised. Wells moved toward the door. Stopped. Your husband lied to you, married you under false pretenses. You owe him nothing? You know nothing about what I owe. He left. His footsteps echoed through the empty house, a horse outside, riding away. Sarah lit more lamps, studied the will careful. The signature looked real, but something was off. The ink, 2 different colors. The signature was older, darker. The text above was newer. Someone had taken a real signature. Added new text above it. She searched Wellington's desk, found his real papers. Business documents, letters. Compared signatures, dates. There, a receipt. Same date as the will, same signature, but different pen, different ink. The will was forged, but cleverly. Would hold up until challenged properly. Sarah heard horses, multiple. She grabbed the rifle, moved to the window. Joe, with Captain Morrison and 4 soldiers, and behind them, Thomas, on Mrs. Aldrich's horse, upright but pale, bandages showing through his shirt. Sarah ran outside. You shouldn't be riding. Couldn't let you face this alone. Thomas dismounted careful, leaned against the horse. Joe told us about the banker. He's gone, but he'll be back. Captain Morrison took the papers Sarah offered, studied them. These are sophisticated forgeries. Can you prove that? With time, but that won't stop him tomorrow. Then what will? Thomas straightened. The truth. Noon next day. Sarah stood on the porch, Thomas beside her, one hand on the rail for support, Joe on the other side. Mrs. Aldrich behind them. Sheriff Crow Dog and Captain Morrison waited with their men. 3 riders approached. Wells. 2 gunmen. Mrs. Harland. Wells called out. Have you decided? Yes. Excellent. He dismounted. The papers. Sarah held them up, then tore them in half, and half again. Let the pieces scatter in the wind. Wells's face darkened. You're making a mistake. No. You made the mistake. Thomas stepped forward. You thought we were alone? Isolated? You're alone. Look again. More horses. from the tree line, the barn, the road, 15, 20, more ranchers, their wives, native families from Joe's mother's tribe, townspeople, even Mr. Chen from the laundry. "What is this?" Wells demanded. "Community," Sarah said. "Something Wellington never understood." Sheriff Crow Dog stepped forward. "Mr. Wells, I've been investigating you. Interesting pattern. You loan money based on false information. When people can't pay, you seize their property. That's business. That's fraud." Captain Morrison joined her. "The Army's also interested. Seems you've been seizing land near proposed rail routes. Land the railroad needs, selling it back at enormous profit. Prove it." "Already have." Morrison held up papers. "Your former clerk, Peterson. He kept records, gave them to us in exchange for immunity." Wells stepped back. His gunmen's hands moved to their weapons. "Don't," Morrison said. 20 rifles raised, aimed. Wells's men raised their hands, stepped away from him. "You can't arrest me. I've done nothing illegal here." "Extortion is illegal," Sheriff Crow Dog said. "Forging documents is illegal." "What forged documents?" Sarah held up the will. "This one. We have the original, the real one, leaving everything to Thomas." "You're lying." "No." Thomas pulled the papers from his coat. "Wellington did write a will leaving money to charity 20 years ago, before he married my mother. He wrote a new one after you found the old one, forged new pages, kept the signature page." Wells's face went gray. "You can't prove that." "The lawyer in Denver already has." Captain Morrison produced a telegram. "Confirmed the second will, has a copy." It was over. Wells knew it. His shoulders sagged. "Arrest him," Morrison told his men. They bound Wells's hands. His men, too, led them to horses. "This isn't finished," Wells called back. "I have friends, powerful friends." "So do we," Sarah said. The crowd proved it. All these people, here for them, not for money, for justice. After the soldiers left, the gathering stayed. Tables appeared, food, someone brought a fiddle. Music started. Sarah found herself in the kitchen, making coffee for dozens. Native women and ranchers' wives worked beside her. No separation, no judgment. Thomas appeared in the doorway. "You need help. You need rest. I need to say something." The women filed out, giving them privacy. Thomas sat heavy in a chair. "The ring," he said. "You moved it." Sarah looked at her hand. The tin ring was on her left hand now, marriage finger. "When?" "This morning." "Why?" She sat beside him. "Because yesterday I chose to stay for duty. Today I choose to stay for you." Thomas reached for her hand. "I love you. You barely know me. I know enough." He traced the green mark the tin left on her skin. "I know you're brave, kind, strong. I know you're rich, wounded, complicated." "Is that enough?" Sarah thought of her grandmother's words. "Trust like a clay pot, broken, patched, cracks showing." "It's a start," she said. 1 year later, Sarah stood at the same stove, same kitchen, but different, fuller, louder. The harvest gathering had become tradition. Natives and whites, ranchers and townspeople, even some from Billings, the honest ones. Through the window, she watched Thomas and Joe working together, moving tables, arranging benches. Joe had grown, filled out. The copper mine was starting to produce small amounts, but enough. Mrs. Aldrich appeared at Sarah's elbow. "You should rest." Sarah's hand went to her belly, 7 months along, showing clearly now, "I'm fine. You're stubborn. Learned from you." The older woman almost smiled. "The bread's ready." They pulled loaves from the oven, dozens. The smell filled the kitchen. Through the door, Sarah could see the gathering, mixed families at every table, children playing together, no one caring about skin color. Thomas came inside, kissed her forehead. His hands were dirty from work, real work, the kind he chose. "How are you?" "Good." "Tired?" "Happy." He touched her belly. "How's our little one?" "Active, like the father." "Stubborn, like the mother." They stood together, watching their community, their family, not blood, but choice. "Any regret?" Thomas asked. Sarah twisted the rings on her finger. Two now, the tin one and a simple gold band, both honest. "No," she said. "None." Joe burst through the door. "Mr. Harland, Mrs. Harland, the Wilsons are here. They brought their whole family, even the grandmother." "We'll need more tables, duh," Thomas said. "Already getting them." Joe grinned. "Also, Sheriff Crow Dog wants to talk to you. Something about expanding the tribal school." "Using the mansion's library," Sarah guessed. "How'd you know?" "We discussed it last month." Thomas squeezed her hand. "Our library for everyone, like it should be." They walked outside together, into the gathering, into their life. The mansion still stood, grand, imposing, but they lived in the cabin behind it, simple, true. Home, some nights. Sarah still felt the weight of all those secrets, all those ghosts. But mornings brought work, purpose, community, and soon a child, born to truth, not lies. The tin ring still turned her finger green. She wouldn't have it any other way. Connecting hearts. Dear friend, we've reached the end of Sarah and Thomas's journey, but perhaps it's just beginning for you. You see, I shared this story because I believe we all wear masks sometimes, not from malice, but from fear. Fear that who we really are isn't enough. Thomas thought he needed to hide his wealth to find real love. Sarah thought she needed to hide her pride to find security. But the truth always finds its way into the light, doesn't it? Just like that tin ring that turned her finger green, but stayed more precious than gold. Maybe you're holding your own secrets right now, wondering if anyone would choose you if they knew everything. Let me tell you what I learned from watching these two. The right person won't love you despite your truth. They'll love you because of it. The cracks in the clay pot. As Sarah's grandmother said, that's where the light gets in. Disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction inspired by Western frontier tales, created solely for entertainment purposes. This narrative does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. But we